Hey, what's going on everyone? Zeph and Moses, and today we're talking about not another microphone. Yes, another mic, but, huge but here, this microphone has timecode. So we can actually turn on timecode in the receiver and it will go into our camera, and if you've got the right cable to insert timecode into your camera, then you're able to record and sync up all of that beautiful audio, and it's got 32-bit float. Let's dig into the Saramonic Ultra. So a few things to note about the Saramonic Ultra. First of all, right out of the box, you've got two clip-on transmitters, so very similar to a lot of other mics on the market, and that's what it appears to be from the get-go, right? So two mic transmitters, one receiver, but some huge differences here. So one, these come with the charging case, but they also come with two lavalier mics. They're plug-in mics that plug directly into this. So I don't have to be recording from this today. I just chose to do that because obviously we're reviewing a microphone, so we need to hear what that sounds like. I think it's important to note that the room that I'm recording in also has a good bit of reverb. We're not going to do a whole lot of post-production work here, so you can just hear what this sounds like straight out of the microphone itself. Now, it also does come with a USB-C and Lightning adapter. They're really nifty. They actually clip onto the receiver, and then you kind of rotate to lock them in place, and then you can take this audio feed into both your iPhone, like the older Lightning model, or your Android, or any other newer iPhone with the USB-C connection. It's going to include the USB-C charging cable, so all of this just charges right in the case itself. Just plug that up to charge. It's also got, this is interesting, this is different, an external antenna. So it is rated to go up to about 300 meters distance. That's of course line of sight. And when you add this antenna, it helps to ensure that that signal is good for that long run. Did I mention this is IPX5 water resistant? So it has a rating where basically you don't want to go swimming with this thing. You don't want to dunk it into a pool, but you could theoretically go walk outside in the rain and get this thing a little bit wet, and you're not going to have any issues with the electronics. I also included our two magnetic transmitter mounts. So I've got a magnet that clips onto the clip here, and then two windscreens and a drawstring pouch to hold all of it. So some key specs about this microphone. Well, one, the transmitters record at 32-bit float. There's an internal storage of 8 gigabytes of memory on each of the transmitters, and you can set them to record internally when you start using the microphones, or you can turn that feature off if you don't want to use up all of that memory. So 32-bit float is something that's been really kind of important in the industry as of late, because it allows you to record a much wider range of audio, and you can recover audio that's really, really quiet and you want to bring it back up a little bit, or you can record in a really loud scenario and it's not going to get distorted. So glad to see that Saramonic incorporated that into this microphone. I'm going to do some audio tests here. So right now I'm in the basement of a friend's house. There's a little bit of reverb because this room isn't treated for sound. The HVAC is running over here. So this is without noise cancellation turned on, and then I'm going to go ahead and turn on noise cancellation. We're going to test out the windscreen. We're going to test out the wired lav that comes with it. So we're going to change this all up and do a couple different settings. This is now a recording of the microphone with noise cancellation turned on, as you can see from that little green light there. Same setting, nothing's really changed here. Now let's test this out with some additional sound. So I found a background noise of New York City. I wanted to kind of imitate a city backdrop. So let me play that for you first without the noise cancellation, just so you can hear what that sounds like. And now let me turn on the noise cancellation and see how that changes. So now I've got the noise cancellation turned on, and there's a lot of noise coming from this sound effect right here. It's pretty loud. It sounds like people outside in New York City walking around, bunch of noise. So I'm curious to see when I get back to the computer what this is going to sound like with the noise cancellation turned on. I'm also going to turn the volume down by about 30%. So now I've turned the volume of that sound effect, the New York City noise. It's people hustling and bustling. Wanted to see if that sounds any different with the noise cancellation turned on. There's also some honking going on, some cars and things like that. Now I've switched over to using the wired lav. It's a mic that actually comes with this kit. So this is their provided lav, but you could potentially use any other 3.5mm lavalier mic that would plug into the transmitter. Now let me go ahead and add in that New York City sound and see what it sounds like and see how much that gets cut out. So let's go ahead and turn this on again. Now we've got our sounds of the streets of New York City. There's cars, there's the hustle and bustle, just the noise of being in the city. I'm still using the lav here. Now, if we want to compare this to what it might sound like without the lav, let me go ahead and unplug it from the pack. So let's do this. So now the lav is unplugged from the pack itself, and you can hear the difference between the lav that's connected to my shirt. It's disconnected right now. This is just me talking into the pack. And then let's turn on that noise cancellation one more time. This is now with noise cancellation turned on. I'm not using the lav at the moment, just the mic pack. Let me go ahead and plug the lav back into the mix so that you can see what it sounds like with the wired lav. Okay, so now I've got the lav plugged back into the transmitter. We've still got the noise going on in the background, and we've got some noise cancellation turned on. That's my green light there. I'll turn it off one more time just so you can hear the difference. And that's with noise cancellation turned off. So we've still got that background noise of New York City and the hustle and bustle going on without noise cancellation, but I'm back to using the wired lavalier microphone. Last but not least, I wanted to test it outside on a relatively windy day. It's freezing, so I'm not gonna stay out here for too long. I've got the lav wired in right now. The noise cancellation is turned off, but you should hear some of that breeze, some of that wind kicking up. All right, now let me go ahead and turn on the noise cancellation. So noise cancellation turned on, and the wind picking up even more. There's also some traffic going by behind me, so you can hear what that sounds like. Last but not least, I'm going to test the mic transmitter itself, but with the windscreen on it. Now I've got the windscreen connected to the microphone itself. It's pretty windy outside. Noise cancellation is turned off, so there's no noise cancellation happening right now. I'm curious how much you're going to hear the wind on this. Let me go ahead and add noise cancellation back in. And noise cancellation is back on. It's super windy outside. There's gusts up to 30 miles an hour today. Curious how this is going to sound when I get back to the computer. A few other things. So SPL, this is the measurement of basically how loud of a situation you can be in before the audio is going to get completely ruined. This is a rating of 130 decibels. That is the equivalent of a jet engine taking off or being at like the loudest recorded rock concert ever. So you are not going to find yourself in a situation where the audio is going to get super distorted unless you literally clip this on to like the speakers at a rock concert or onto a jet engine of a plane. So you're covered there. Right? It's got an AM OLED touchscreen on the receiver side, and that's where you can cycle through some of the menus that are in there, and you can set up all your settings from there. It's rated for about 6 hours of battery life for each transmitter and the receiver. So one thing to note, if you are recording for a full day, you're going to have to at some point take the mics and the receiver and pop them back into the charging case, but you'll have plenty of juice from the case itself to recharge them maybe on a lunch break or in between some programming. So the only person that I wouldn't recommend this mic for is really someone who's got to be going all day long and recording from 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock in the evening. This is something that's better for those run and gun interviews that are on the go where you just need to clip a lav onto somebody, clip the receiver onto a camera and just go and not make a huge fuss about it. It's perfect for that. But the fact that it's got that long range antenna that you can add to it means that you could be all the way at the end of a ballroom and recording somebody delivering maybe an hour-long keynote speech and have absolutely no problem with the audio hitting your camera in the back of the room. The charging case is rated for 2 charging cycles, so you can recharge the transmitters and receiver twice just by putting them back in the case before you plug in the case itself with a USB-C cable to recharge the whole entire thing. Now let's talk a little bit about the built-in timecode. So you can set up the timecode from the receiver and basically choose your frame rate, so whether you're recording at 24 frames or at 30 frames, you choose that frame rate in the receiver. And then what you do is you either take the 3.5mm cable if your camera can take timecode through its 3.5mm port, or you might have to get like a 3.5mm to BNC cable that's made specifically for a timecode port. Like my main camera is a Canon C70 and that has its own BNC timecode port. So you'll need a separate cable for that. Everyone's camera is going to behave a little bit differently, but why would you use this? Well, it makes things really easy if you're trying to sync up that audio later. So let's say you're recording internally on the mic at 32-bit so that you can record the widest range and best quality. Some people might be yelling and some people might be quiet, and you'll be able to recover all of that audio later on. Well, if the timecode is matching up with your camera, all you do is just pull in your files into your editor and sync them up by timecode later, because the audio recordings on the mic transmitter will be synced with that timecode. So they're recording the timecode with the audio file on the transmitter, but it's also going to feed that timecode into your camera for syncing up later. Now, in my particular usage case, normally I'm recording scratch audio on my camera and then I'm just syncing it up using the audio, but Timecode is going to be a more granular and perfect sync with the audio. So that's the big benefit there. One thing I do want to note is there's some really cool modes. There's different timecode modes. So you can do like left channel being timecode and right channel being one of the microphones. You can merge them together and have like a mono feed of the left and right microphone if you're using two of the mic transmitters. And then you can also take timecode on one of the other channels. So there's a really good amount of flexibility there. And then you just set your timecode to free run and then you can sync that up with your camera. So that's a really, really nifty feature. And it's cool to see that Saramonic is kind of pushing the limits of what's available on the market, both with getting that 32-bit float and that timecode capability within the receiver. The only thing I'd really want to see is typically we're shooting in a multicam scenario. So only getting that timecode over to one camera helps me for syncing up that one camera, but not so much if I've got 2 or 3 other cameras on the shoot that need to be in sync as well. But that's something where you're probably going to invest in a much larger setup to get that timecode in sync across the board. So not too much of a drawback there. I just think it's worth pointing that out, that because that that receiver is the only one that's going to send the timecode into the camera, you don't exactly have 2 or 3 other receivers that you could connect to other cameras. But all in all, very, very interesting. The receiver, it can be locked, so you can press and hold the power button for about a half second and it will lock it so you don't accidentally press that touch screen or change any of the settings. Just press that power button again and you will unlock that receiver as well. There's 3 recording modes, so there's stereo where each transmitter is recorded on a separate channel. It's also got a mono where both transmitters are combined into one output, and then there's a mono plus a safety track which records your mono mic and then one track at -6 dB, which isn't totally as necessary now since we have the 32-bit float capabilities and we could take that recording off the transmitter and adjust that from there. So it just seems like they really thought of everything and they implemented a whole bunch of stuff into this kit, and I'm just really happy that I can plug a wired lavalier mic into the transmitter and don't have to actually clip this box onto my shirt every single time that I want to record from there. One other thing to point out is the transmitters, because they record internally, you don't actually need the receiver. You could just pop the transmitter on somebody and get that recorded file later. It's of course a great backup if you were to take the receiver and feed that into your camera to sync up later. So some final notes on the Saramonic Ultra. One, I really like that you've got the same sort of setup that a lot of other audio companies are doing, which is that you've got 2 transmitters and 1 receiver in a charging case and everything just charges right there. The only downside here is that they're doing what a lot of the other companies are doing as well, which is that all of the other accessories that come along with it, like in this case, your lavaliers, your windscreens, the clip for the lavs, all your cables, like your USB-C charging cable, all that stuff goes into a little pouch. And so you have to keep the pouch together with the charging case. But it makes sense, right? Like the charging case would be massive if we were trying to fit all these other little accessories and doodads inside of it. So I don't fault them for doing that. I think if anything, at some point, one of these companies has got to figure out a better solution for bringing all the little accessories with it so that you truly can grab and go with one kit without having to get the charging case and the little drawstring baggie to carry everything together. So that's just my personal opinion and something from someone who's always carrying around all sorts of adapters and cables and things. So I love to be able to be minimalist and have one case for everything. I know it's not easy to fix that problem. The second thing that I think is the timecode is a really, really cool, neat feature. It's something that makes perfect sense for somebody that wants to record that 32-bit float in the transmitter itself and then sync it back up later to their camera and make sure that it's going to be perfectly in sync every single time. And then I really like the touchscreen, the AMOLED touchscreen. It's a nice feature to be able to go through those menus and you don't have to like hit a bunch of weird buttons and weird combinations just to get through the menus. I think it makes it really nice. And there is some noise canceling built into these as well that you can turn on or off. So there's a lot of features packed into this one microphone. The one big leg up, of course, being the fact that they have timecode. But I would say the second leg up is probably that 32-bit float because not all of the microphone manufacturers have 32-bit float built in just yet. So if you like this review and if you want to see more of the Saramonic Ultra, I've got links for you down below if you want to grab one of these. If you haven't made a choice on a microphone just yet, it's worth noting that 32-bit float and that timecode, both really great features for the right person. So those links are down below. It all goes to support and help the channel out, and I will see you next time.